Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Concussion Nurse Podcast. What are we going to talk about this week? We are going to talk about something we kind of hit on a couple episodes ago, this concept of moving from chaos to organization. And why do I use the word chaos a lot? When I think of, let's talk about what I mean when I talk about chaos or when I think about chaos. I feel super overwhelmed, right? When I picture myself standing in chaos, when I'm not regulated in chaos, because remember in the nervous system section, we talked about the power of being calm in the middle of chaos, right? This is not what I'm talking about in this moment. In this moment, when I'm thinking of chaos with not knowing what to do in that next step. So it's the client scenario. And if you're the client that this is you and you feel a little bit lost in chaos because you don't know what to do, please know I see you in that too. But this is the person that you're doing that assessment and your history takes 45 minutes because it's been such a journey and they've experienced many things and it's all important so you hear it. Then you start going into your assessment and you're finding you're finding outcomes in every profile. They're describing things you haven't heard of before, that you don't really know how to explain. So it kind of triggers a little bit of potentially some insecurity in yourself. You're seeing things that you don't know what to explain, but you can see it, but you don't know what it is or what to do about it. And you have all this stuff. And sometimes I have this image of like picturing sitting there and picturing all these things whirling around you and you just kind of sitting there going, what the fuck do I do? And it's almost like you're frozen in place because you're like, there's so much. And you don't know which direction to take that first step. That's what I think of when I think of chaos. Complexity doesn't have to be chaotic. So that same person that just, we talk about that had all these different findings, that had these things that you observed in your assessment, that you're like, I don't know what the fuck this means. When you have an understanding, which we're going to dig into, and a framework, you can have all this same stuff and it can be complex, but it doesn't have to be chaotic. And I will say that's what we do really well in Concussion Nerds is we help you, well, if we go back to being calm in the chaos, but we help you stay calm when complexity is present because you have the tools to start to navigate through it one step at a time. So this is why I think clinicians feel overwhelmed working with some persistent concussion, because persistent concussion, first of all, is never just one thing anymore. Right? When someone comes through your door with an acute concussion, and there are absolutely clinics that choose to just treat acute concussion, and then if it's not resolving in a window of time, they refer to clinics that do more persistent. But when someone comes through with an acute concussion, if they're there in a timely manner, they don't have any yellow flags for persistent, if it's a pretty straightforward recovery, protocols work decently well, right? Ideally, we're still screening for all the phenotypes in the first 10 days. That's a different episode. But in persistent, if something has become a persistent concussion and this person's been on this journey for a year plus, whatever it is, it's never just one thing anymore. Ever. And I like that the data and the research actually supports that more and more. So then that question becomes, well, like, what is the thing? And what do I do? And where is my lane? And when am I referring? And who am I referring to? And when does that happen? And all these pieces, right? And that, if you don't have a structure, a framework, remember a framework is not, hot pause for a second. A framework is not a black and white cookie cutter protocol. A framework is not check boxes and lines and lists. A framework, when I'm talking about a framework, is a way to organize your thinking And your process is to move within freely. So let's just get like super clear on that. It is not a cookie cutter protocol with checkboxes and a handout you give every fucking client. It is a way of thinking to organize your thought process and your order of execution. Okay? Totally forgot what I was going to say. But when we feel overwhelmed, I think it's typically because we have these multiple factors and we don't know where to start. We don't know what's going to have the greatest impact because we've talked about this on previous episodes. While this might be someone that could be doing 5 different things, could be doing 5 different things, how do we know which is going to be the biggest needle mover for them? Right? When someone has limited capacity, whether it be energy, fatigue, cognitive power, all those things, which is almost everyone with a persistent journey, we need to be helping them by giving them and supporting them with the biggest needle movers we can find. With the goal of that needle mover also obviously being to increase capacity, right? So what happens, and when we move from chaos and feeling overwhelmed to calm with complexity, when we start organizing things not in a symptom base, but in a system base. And I say this again in the fact that this does not mean we're disregarding symptoms. It doesn't mean that at all. But it means that the symptom isn't driving your treatment plan. It means that the headache isn't deciding you're doing cervical rehab. It means that dizziness, we did a whole episode about using the word dizziness, but it means that the dizziness, I'm going to use it because our clients use it, isn't the factor that drives you to vestibular rehab, right? It means that shitty balance, that's a whole other thing we could talk about. Shitty balance isn't the thing that says, oh, we need to do vestibular rehab. Okay. So let's look at a client example. And I'm going to read some things where it's like, this is going to sound like every client that walks through your door, right? So your client comes in, let's say her name is Jane. Jane comes in, she's been on this journey for 18 months, and she describes her symptoms as dizziness, she's got a headache, she's got fatigue, really difficulty concentrating, she's experiencing light sensitivity, and she's just finding like her balance is rough. Like she's struggling a bit with her balance. Cool. Sounds kind of like every client, right? So then I say to Jane, I'm like, could you elaborate on what you mean by dizziness? Because we just did a whole episode on this, right? And she goes, well, it feels like, she's like, I feel unsteady on my feet. Like my world moves a bit when I'm on my feet. Like it kind of bounces a little bit. And I feel a little lightheaded when I just really quickly move from sit to stand. And I go, oh, okay. So instead of looking at this as 5 separate problems, right? The dizziness is a problem, the headache is a problem, the fatigue is a problem, the difficulty concentrating is a problem. Instead of looking at these 5 different problems, the light sensitivity, let's take a step back and let's look at this as systems, okay? Without knowing anything else, I could really broadly say this is quite possibly a vestibular, visual, and autonomic system component. Let's talk about why. Now, a headache, we would have asked more questions about the headache too. Where is the headache? What spikes the headache? How do you feel the headache? But let's talk about this for a second. The dizziness, when she's talking about the world bouncing while she's moving, well, instinctively I go to a VOR issue, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna look at that vestibular ocular reflex. I'm gonna look at it from an angular and a linear perspective, and I'm just gonna make sure that's okay. But then she also talked about feeling lightheaded. Well, that sounds a little bit more like a blood flow issue to me. And we're not getting that blood flow return to the brain. So I'm like, okay, good thing I do all this stuff in my standard assessment anyways, but like that's just kind of flagging me to potentially there's a little bit of an autonomic issue. She talked about headaches. And like I said, we would actually dig more into that question, right? So there's multiple different kinds of headaches. There's different roots and drivers. We would be asking more questions. But in this case, You'd be like, well, that headache could be an autonomic piece, depending on how she's feeling. It could be a visual piece as well. Yes, it could be a cervical piece, depending on where she's feeling it too. But okay, headaches, fatigue, energy. That flags me a lot to some autonomic-y stuff as well. We're not getting that blood flow to the brain. We're not getting that nourishment. And also, what fatigue flags me to is just things are working way too fucking hard. So, of course, she's tired. Difficulty concentrating, similar to the fatigue. And light sensitivity. Well, light sensitivity to me is either an autonomic piece commonly because we are potentially stuck in sympathetic drive. Maybe. These are all assumptions at the moment, but like maybe we're stuck in sympathetic drive, which means our pupils are dilated. If our pupils are dilated and they're staying more dilated and they're not responding appropriately to our environment, it means we're not filtering light the same way we would do so if we were in a more dynamic nervous system state. So potentially, that could be an autonomic piece as well. So then, and talk about balance. So when we think balance, many people think vestibular right away. But what if that balance issue is more that she has a collapse of that peripheral visual field? Our peripheral visual field is our spatial aspect of our visual system. It's the where aspect of our visual system. And if we don't have that peripheral field to help kind of reference us, that's going to impact our balance. So what if in this assessment, we're like, okay, there's a visual piece that's actually the fact that this peripheral field is collapsed in, and we actually need to open up that peripheral field to help impact our balance. So now instead of looking at, okay, like I'm going to do this for this piece, I'm going to do this for this piece, I'm going to address the headache this way, I'm going to give you FL41s for light sensitivity, which you might still do for management, PS by the way, and I'm going to do this piece for this. Instead, I'm stepping back and I'm going, okay, I have systems involved here. I have a vestibular system, I have a visual system, and I have an autonomic system. How am I going to work these three systems together in a treatment plan, as opposed to just trying to tackle a symptom? I promise you that when you start to have a lens and an understanding of how you can look at it from a system interaction perspective versus just a symptom, you are going to have more change in your clients in a faster way than if you just chase symptoms. Because when we chase symptoms, we tend to chase the loudest symptom. And that just may or may not be the appropriate window in to having change in your client's body and brain. So, you can be in chaos and not have a clue what to do and feel super overwhelmed and frozen, or you can recognize that our clients are complex. And our clients are complex because there's never just one thing. And you need to understand how not only the physiological aspect, which is what we've really talked about over these last few episodes and this episode, impact, but also how is the rest of life happening? We are treating a whole person. We're not just treating a physiological system. So what does stress look like? What does their environment look like? What does their social support look like, right? Like there's studies that show that loneliness is it's a driver of death, right? So what are we doing to ensure these other factors are also at least being looked at so that our whole person is being taken care of? And that is where, honestly, a lot of the time your referral network comes into play. And what I would say, although I think sometimes we definitely try to be aware of when we're referring and not trying to not do something too early due to cost to the client, I would say that's not our decision, right? If you think a referral to a counselor or a referral to a nutritionist or a referral to functional medicine or a referral to neurooptometry or a referral to speech or to OT or whoever it is would be beneficial to the client, it's our responsibility to present that to them. They are the ones that can decide that it's not the appropriate time or the appropriate time for them at that moment. And they can have a discussion with you perhaps as why. And so while, yes, there's overlap in a lot of those things, don't ever feel like we have to not refer someone for whatever reason. Because treating that whole person means that, yes, like we talked about for most of this, we commonly, the physiotherapists and the chiropractors and the P are looking at this from a system integration perspective. We cannot forget that there's other drivers and factors that are impacting this person's life that quite possibly also need to be addressed. All right, my friends, a short and sweet episode for you this time. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next week.